So, if you're building with React Native and Expo, you know the struggle is real when it comes to keeping your app solid as it gets bigger. Today, we're going to talk about the single best upgrade you can make to your workflow, moving from JavaScript to TypeScript. And look, this isn't about rewriting everything. Think of it as adding a safety net for your component props, your custom hooks, and even your navigation. Let's get right into how to do it.
So let me ask you, are you still rocking those plain old JS files? And hey, if you are, that's totally cool. You've probably shipped some amazing stuff that way. But maybe you're starting to feel some of those growing pains, right? Those weird runtime errors that could have been caught way earlier, or that moment you're staring at a component wondering, what props does this thing even take? If that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place.
And here is the big thing you need to know. This isn't some experimental, expert-level tool anymore. The official Expo docs are clear. TypeScript is now the default for new projects. That's it. The whole ecosystem is moving in this direction because of the safety and clarity it brings. This isn't about chasing a trend, it's about using the modern standard.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why TypeScript is the new standard. Then, we'll look at the super easy way to start a new project from scratch. After that, we get to the main event, upgrading your existing JavaScript app. We'll top it off with a pro tip to clean up your imports, and then we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the new standard. So what do we really mean when we say TypeScript has first-class support in Expo? Well, it means it's not some add-on or a plugin you just bolt on. It's baked right into the core of the Expo SDK. And this is the key right here. The Expo SDK itself, the very tools you're using, are written in TypeScript. So when you use TypeScript in your project, you're literally speaking the same language as the framework. What that actually means for you is way smarter autocomplete in your editor, catching errors before you even run the app. I mean, it just makes for a much, much smoother development experience.
Okay, on to Section 2. If you're about to start a brand new app, well, you're in for a treat. The process is so simple because, like we said, it's already the default.
Seriously, getting started is as easy as running the command you already know. Create Expo app. The default template now does all the heavy lifting for you. It sets up your tsconfig JSON, it installs the right dependencies, and it even gives you your first app.tsx file. You're ready to start coding with type safety from the very first minute.
All right, now for the part I know a lot of you are here for, the upgrade path. What if you've already got an app built with JavaScript? Don't sweat it. You absolutely do not have to start from scratch. Expo gives us a really clear, step-by-step way to migrate.
The whole entire process really just boils down to these 4 main steps. We're going to rename our files, install a couple of new dev dependencies, generate our TypeScript config file, and then, actually start checking our code. Let's walk through each one.
First things first, renaming files. And the rule here is dead simple. If a file has any JSX in it, your React components, it gets the .tsx extension. If it's just a plain logic file, maybe some utility functions, it gets a simple .ts. That's how you tell the compiler what's what.
So for your main app.js file, you just run a command like this to change the extension to .tsx. Now, you'll have to do this for all your component files. It's a little bit of grunt work up front, but it's the most important first step to let TypeScript know which files to pay attention to. Next up, we need to install the dev dependencies. You need the TypeScript package itself, obviously, and @types/React, which gives you all the type definitions for React. Now, the really crucial part here is to use npx expo install. Why? Because this command makes sure you get versions of these packages that are perfectly compatible with your Expo SDK version. It saves you from a world of hurt. And this is where the Expo CLI is just your best friend. Instead of trying to figure out how to write a complex TypeScript config file from scratch, you just run this one command, npx expo customize tsconfig.json. Expo then creates that tsconfig.json file for you, already filled out with all the settings it recommends for a React Native project. It's a massive time saver. So this tsconfig JSON file, you can think of it as the brain of your whole TypeScript setup. It tells the compiler how to do its job. And the most important thing to notice is that it extends something called expo/tsconfig.base. This means Expo has already done the hard work of creating a base configuration with all the smart defaults you need. It just works. Okay, so you've done the basic migration. Your app is now a TypeScript app. Now let's talk about a major quality of life upgrade. This step is totally optional, but trust me, for any project that's more than just a couple of files, you're gonna want to do this. I'm talking about path aliases.
Oh man, we have all been here, right? You're buried deep in some folder, 5 levels down, and you need to import a button. You end up with these hideous, confusing, and super fragile relative paths, and you just know that if you ever move this file, that import is going to break. It is a total headache. Well, the fix is beautifully simple. You just open up your tsconfig.json file, and under the compiler options, you add this little paths property. This rule right here simply tells TypeScript, hey, anytime you see an import that starts with the @ symbol, I want you to look in the source folder at the root of my project. And boom, look at the result. How clean is that? The import is now absolute, starting from your source directory. It's way easier to read, it's faster to write, and best of all, you can move that file anywhere you want, and the import will not break. This makes your code so much easier to maintain. Just a few super important tips to get this working. Anytime you change your tsconfig.json, you have to restart the dev server. Simple as that. The good news, though, is that you don't need to clear the Metro cache or anything complicated. And the best part, this works right out of the box because Metro, the bundler for React Native, already knows how to handle it. And that's really it. In just a handful of steps, you've not only migrated your project to TypeScript, but you've also leveled up your workflow with clean path aliases. So let's do a quick final recap of the key points. Here's your final checklist. If it's a new project, just use the default template. Easy. For an existing project, just remember the order. Rename your files to .tsx or .ts, use npx expo install to get the right dependencies, generate your config file with npx expo pastomize, and then do yourself a favor and add those path aliases to clean up your imports.
So there you have it. That's the entire journey from a plain JavaScript app to a fully type-safe TypeScript setup in Expo. You've just built a foundation for a much more robust, scalable, and honestly, a more enjoyable app to work on. The only question left is, now that you'll be spending less time chasing down silly runtime bugs, what are you going to build next?